Hello guys. So recently I've been seeing this guy named His Story blowing up. So we're gonna be reacting to him today and reacting to all of his videos. So let's do it. Alright, first video. Wait, no, should we react to shorts or videos?
I don't know.
Alright, my sister is here, so you know. No, let me react to a couple.
Four kids ripped my family's Halloween skeleton in half for a TikTok, so I rebuilt him into a trap. I just stapled the tiny top hat on a 12-foot Home Depot skeleton dressed like Ever since my wife's car accident 2 years ago, she could not remember I was severely allergic to chicken, and it almost cost me my marriage. She pulled a chicken casserole out of the oven one evening and set it in front of me with a huge smile. I found a new recipe in my book. Tell me what you think. I picked up my fork and smiled back. She had lost chunks of her memory in the accident, and cooking made her feel normal again, so I never said anything about my allergy. I just started hiding bites down my shirt when she looked away. I dropped a chunk into my collar. It is incredible, babe. I needed a better plan before I ended up in the hospital. Our neighbor Margaret caught me dumping a plate into the trash one afternoon, and I explained everything in a whisper while checking over my shoulder. After that, she started sliding meals through my laundry room window. I would hear the tap, open the window, take the plate, and eat standing over the dryer with the door locked. One evening, my wife knocked while I was mid-bite. "Why is this door locked?" I shoved the container behind the detergent. "Just folding laundry." She tried the handle again. "You have been in there for 20 minutes. Almost done." I stood completely still until I heard her walk away. Then I opened the mini fridge I had hidden behind the detergent and stacked the empty container inside next to 14 others. Then one afternoon, my wife was outside gardening and looked up at exactly the wrong moment and saw Margaret climbing through the laundry room window. She came through the back door with tears streaming down her face. "How could you cheat on me after everything we have been through?" I took her hand. "I need to show you something." I opened the mini fridge behind the detergent, and there was Tupperware stacked all the way to the top. I am severely allergic to chicken, and I always have been, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings, so I've been putting it down my shirt and eating other food secretly. I held my breath and waited for her to explode as she stared at the fridge. Then she started laughing so hard, she had to hold the dryer for support. "You could have died." I could finally breathe again. She ran to the kitchen, grabbed the recipe book off the shelf, and dropped it straight in the trash. "I was wondering why all your shirts smelled like chicken." Ever since my wife's car accident 2 years ago, she could not remember I was severely allergic. I delivered 2 burgers and told the woman that'll be $20, but she gave me 10 and smirked. "I already gave you the other 10. I replied that that was physically impossible since I just got here, then stretched my hand out. "I need 10 more bucks, ma'am." "Well, you're not getting it," she grinned. "What are you gonna do about it?" Normally my answer would have been nothing, but her fat grin made me so angry I shrugged. "If you're only paying for half, then I guess you're only getting half." I grabbed one of her burgers and took a giant bite. She instantly screamed, "I'm calling your manager," but I smiled through a mouthful of her burger. "Go ahead, my manager's my dad." I burped in her face, then walked back to my car still eating her burger. She got what she paid for. I delivered 2 burgers and told the woman that'll be $20, but she gave me 10 and smirked. "I already gave you the other 10. I replied that that was physically impossible since I just got here, then stretched my hand out. "I need 10 more bucks, ma'am." "Well, you're not getting it," she grinned. "What are you gonna do about it?" Normally my answer would have been nothing, but her fat grin made me so angry I shrugged. "If you're only paying for half, then I guess you're only getting half." I grabbed one of her burgers and took a giant bite. She instantly screamed, "I'm calling your manager," but I smiled through a mouthful of her burger. "Go ahead, my manager's my dad." I burped in her face, then walked back to my car still eating her burger. She got My pregnant client fell and started giving birth in the courtroom, and the prosecutor yelled she was manipulating the jury. She ran up behind me while I was closing my law office for the night and tapped my shoulder. "I'm 8.5 months pregnant and my trial is tomorrow. They said they'll take my baby away. Please do something." She said she was homeless and had robbed baby formula and diapers at gunpoint. I told her, "I'll represent you." Next morning we walked into the courthouse, and the prosecutor saw Nadia struggling to walk and immediately smiled like he'd already won. First, he showed the jury the security footage of Nadia holding the store clerk at gunpoint, asking them, "Is this the kind of woman who deserves to raise a child?" He called Nadia a criminal, a thief, and said her baby was just a convenient excuse to commit the crime. I tried showing the jury that Nadia only took things for her baby, but the prosecutor laughed. A crime is a crime. To my horror, I saw jurors actually nodding at him, and the whole time, Nadia kept clutching her belly and wincing in pain. She whispered, "I'm gonna lose you," into her belly over and over. When the jury went to decide, they came back in 20 minutes. Nadia was now doubled over next to me, and just as as the judge went to bang his gavel and declare her guilty, Nadia screamed and fell backwards. "I'm giving birth!" the prosecutor yelled. "She's faking! She's trying to manipulate the jury!" But Nadia's water was already over the floor. The judge screamed, "Get an ambulance!" and paramedics burst in and loaded Nadia onto a stretcher. She grabbed my jacket and said, "You're the only one kind to me. Please don't leave." So I climbed in with her. But when we pulled up to the hospital, I saw the prosecutor pull up too, as he jumped out of his car and ran in front of us to block the entrance. The judge is about to call me and tell me Nadia is a felon. She needs to be handcuffed while she gives birth. He picked up his phone and started calling. Nadia cried, and I tried to grab his phone, but then the judge started ringing him. My heart sank, and the prosecutor answered on speaker, smiling like he'd won. But then the judge told him, the jury just changed their verdict. Seeing a homeless woman give birth over diapers made them reconsider. Nadia's ruled not guilty. The prosecutor's face fell, and that evening, I held Nadia's hand while she delivered a healthy baby girl as a free woman. Then I told her, "You're no longer homeless." And when she asked why, I held up the footage of the prosecutor blocking the door. That's one hell of a lawsuit. My pregnant client fell and My classmate walked up to me after school holding a Pokemon card and said, "I'll trade you my shiny Mewtwo for your holographic Charizard." He held the Mewtwo up to the sun, and it was so shiny it looked wet, and I'd never seen one like it in my life. I'd been saving my Charizard since 2nd grade and swore I'd never trade it. But a shiny Mewtwo had to be one of those rare ones from Japan, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime trade. I pulled my Charizard out of my binder and slid it across the bench, and Tate dropped the Mewtwo in my hand and walked off before I could change my mind. I held the Mewtwo up the whole walk home, watching the shine catch the light from every angle. I was the happiest kid in the world, and I couldn't wait to show Garrett the best trade of my life. I burst through the front door and ran straight to his room, and he looked up from his desk as I held the Mewtwo out in front of him with both hands. He took one look at it and stopped chewing his gum. "Where'd you get this?" It wasn't even a question. He flipped it over and scratched the corner with his thumbnail, and a flake of ink came off onto his finger. "Dude, it's printed. Like on a printer. Who traded you this?" My stomach hit the floor. "Tate. Tate from your grade?" I nodded. "What did you give him for it?" I stared at his carpet because I couldn't look him in the eye, and I finally got the words out. "My hollow Charizard." He just stared at me. "The one you wouldn't even let me touch?" I turned around and ran. I told my mom I forgot something at school, sprinted the whole way back, but the bell had rung an hour ago, and the playground was empty. I went home and sat in my room, scratching the corner of the fake Mewtwo over and over, watching another flake come off every time, and I barely slept all night. The next morning, I cornered Tate at the basketball court before first bell and shoved the Mewtwo at him. "Give me my Charizard back. This is fake." Tate barely looked at it. "Yeah, I know." Then he shrugged and pulled a Game Boy out of his backpack. "I already traded it to a 6th grader for this. He doesn't even go to this school. His brother just dropped him off yesterday." He turned the Game Boy on, and the Pokemon Red start screen lit up his face, and something in me snapped. I tackled Tate straight into the blacktop, and the Game Boy went skidding across the court. He swung at me, but I pinned his arm with my knee and started swinging back. And by the time the recess monitor pulled me off him, his nose was bleeding and he was crying. I grabbed the Game Boy off the blacktop and went for his backpack to take whatever else he had. And right there in the front pocket was my hollow Charizard tucked into a top loader. Tate had been lying about the 6th grader the whole time. I held it up to the sun, and it caught the light just like it used to. I walked away with my Charizard and a Game Boy. My classmate walked up.
What the heck?
Final test, your natural instincts. One blanket has a criminal murderer, the other has your parents. Pick one and shoot. My hands trembled on the grip as my throat went dry. I'd been training to be a special forces hitman and hadn't seen my parents in 3 years. My recruiter had promised me I would see them soon. This is what he meant. I raised the pistol towards the blanket on my right. Mom had hated that word since the day she spent 4 hours teaching me the difference between right and right back when I first learned English. She couldn't be under that one. My index finger trembled, but I squeezed. Let's see how strong those instincts were. My heart trembled as my recruiter grabbed the blanket and pulled. A dummy stared back at me. My hands were still shaking as he walked over and placed his hand on my shoulder. "You trusted your instincts so much that you pointed a loaded gun at a blanket that could have been your parents. That's exactly what we need. You passed." I dropped to my knees. Final test, your natural instincts. One blanket has a kid in class grabbed my 6th finger and held it up for everyone to see. "Everyone look at 6-finger Johnny over here." I instantly ran out in tears while everyone laughed. My hands had 6 fingers, and I felt like a monster because of something I was born with. I walked home with gloves even though it was 100 degrees outside. But when Dad saw me, he just smiled. "I'm gonna show you your hands are normal, son." I didn't say anything, and that night I ate dinner without looking at my plate just so I wouldn't have to look at my hands. But the next morning, Dad walked into my room with paint all over his clothes. He'd painted a portrait of me as a goalkeeper with my 6 fingers. My lip quivered because a goalkeeper was my dream career. I never thought it was possible because of my deformed hands, but this gave me hope. I told him I loved it, and he replied, I got it commissioned. We're hanging it up at the art gallery so you can see your hands make you special. A kid in class grabbed my 6th finger and held it up for everyone to see. Everyone look at 6-finger Johnny over here. I instantly ran out in tears while everyone laughed. My hands had 6 fingers, and I felt like a monster because of something I was born with. I walked home with gloves even though it was 100 degrees outside. But when Dad saw me, he just smiled. I'm gonna show you your hands are normal, son. I didn't say anything, and that night I ate dinner without looking at my plate just so I wouldn't have to look at my hands. But the next morning, Dad walked into my room with paint all over his clothes. He'd painted a portrait of me as a goalkeeper with my 6 fingers. My lip quivered because a goalkeeper was my dream career. I never thought it was possible because of my deformed hands, but this gave me hope. I told him I loved it, and he replied, I got it commissioned. We're hanging it up at the art gallery so you can see your hands make you special. I looked down at my 6 fingers, and for the first time wasn't ashamed of them. But then we hung it up, and an art commissioner immediately walked over. This is beautiful. But then he pointed at the hands. But it's also anatomically incorrect. What normal kid has 6 fingers? I felt my stomach drop in shame, and Dad instantly shook his head. My son does. I painted my son so he'd understand his hands are normal. He pointed at my 6 fingers, and when the commissioner saw me, he gripped his head. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. He looked at my hands again, then knelt down and took a deep breath. I'm sorry, kid, but you really do have some weird-looking hands. I can't display this. He tucked Dad's drawing under his arm and walked away quickly as he could. My dad was too shocked to speak, and I just looked at my 6 fingers and cried. A kid in class grabbed my 6th finger and held it up for everyone to see. Everyone look at 6-finger Johnny over.
We're gonna see you next video. Bye bye, guys.